You know those stories you hear about profound, earth-shattering spiritual insights? They're amazing. But what happens the next morning? We're going to dive into a question that so much spiritual writing just seems to skip. After that big glimpse, then what? How in the world do you live an ordinary life after you've had an extraordinary realization?
So you've had it. That big recognition. You've seen something absolutely fundamental about who you are, and then, well, the alarm clock rings. The kids need breakfast. Your body still aches, and you're just left with this one giant, blinking question. Now what? Today, we are exploring that exact gap.
And this slide just nails the problem, doesn't it? On one hand, you've had this glimpse of being this vast, undivided awareness. It's cosmic, it's boundless. And on the other hand, it's Tuesday afternoon, you're stuck in traffic, your back hurts, and that cosmic feeling seems about a million miles away. So how do we bridge this great divide?
Okay, so the first thing to get your head around is that this experience isn't some stable, permanent state of bliss. Not at first, anyway. It's more like a rhythm, an oscillation between two very, very different realities, what we can call the shimmer and the density.
You know these days, right? You wake up, and that recognition is just on. It's vivid. You feel porous, unbounded. The light coming through the window is this inexplicable miracle. Even the sound of the garbage truck feels like music. You honestly wonder how you ever, for a single second, thought you were separate from any of it. And then there are the other mornings. You wake up and you are just you. Dense, small, already worried about the day ahead. That incredible spaciousness you tasted feels like a beautiful dream, totally and completely irrelevant to the weight of this moment. And you think, I lost it. It's gone. And this is where that classic Zen saying comes in. The mundane tasks of life, they don't just disappear after some profound insight. The goal isn't to stop chopping wood and carrying water. See, what's changed is your relationship to the chopping and the carrying, even on those dense, difficult mornings. So all this back and forth, this oscillation, it actually forces you into a huge reframe. You know, one of the biggest myths in spirituality is that awakening means the death of the ego. But what if that's not it at all? What if the person doesn't disappear, but just becomes a role you play? And here it is, the core insight. Your personality, your history, all your little quirks, they were never the enemy. The problem was never the existence of the person, but the feeling of being completely imprisoned by it. This isn't something to be destroyed. It's the very vehicle through which life gets to live. Think of it like being an actor. Before, you were an actor who completely forgot they were in a play. Every line, every scene, it all felt like life and death. Now, you know it's a play. You can throw yourself into the role with total abandon, feel all the feelings, but you're no longer imprisoned by the belief that the character is all you are. It's a game changer. So, what do we call this whole messy process? It's called integration. And I gotta tell you, it is not a straight line up to the sky. It's a journey with a rhythm, kind of like a spiral, with phases that are actually predictable, even if they feel totally chaotic while you're in them. So this journey of integration often moves through these 4 stages. First, you get the honeymoon, a beautiful period of ease and clarity. But that's usually followed by the hangover, where all your old patterns come roaring back with a vengeance. And that forces you into the work, the real labor of meeting whatever comes up. And then, over time, this leads to the deepening, where the recognition becomes more and more your stable, default reality. And listen, this next part is maybe the most important thing to hear. That hangover phase, right, where it feels like you've lost everything and you're right back at square one, that is not a failure. That is the next stage of the work. It's all the unintegrated parts of you coming up to be seen in the light of this new awareness. So after all this back and forth, all this integration, what's the punchline? Where does this all lead? Well, it's the wild realization that the goal was never to escape ordinary life, but to be able to drop more fully into it. So what actually shifts? Well, it's a few subtle but absolutely profound things. First, suffering becomes optional. Now look, pain is inevitable. It's just part of having a nervous system. But suffering, that's the mental story we wrap around the pain, the resistance to it, that whole tangle becomes transparent, and you find you can just let it go. Second, that constant, obsessive internal monitoring.
how am I doing? What do they think of me? It just becomes less interesting. The habit might still pop up, but it doesn't have the same grip, the same juice. It feels almost quaint, kind of like looking at an old photograph of yourself.
And third, and this might be the most reliable one, that constant background hum of seeking just quiets down. That restless feeling that something is missing, that you need to get somewhere else to finally be complete, that just starts to dissolve. Because you've seen for yourself that what you were looking for was here the whole time. And this is where it all comes together. This is the big idea. The whole point is that your messy, imperfect, stumbling human life, with its traffic jams and its backaches and its dense mornings, it's not the obstacle you need to overcome. It is the very expression of realization itself.
So, at the end of it all, that cosmic insight isn't going to do your chores for you. The dishes still need washing. And the beautiful, grounding truth is that this isn't a sign of failure. This is the good news.